Okay. First of all, I just want to say I feel very honoured, I suppose, the word, and really appreciate it when people. It's not like hanging out for it, or I don't think like this, but when I feel this, when I know I'm respected and honoured for who I am in GKR, I really do just appreciate it. It makes me think, because I think I know how it was for me when I first started, like the various masters of karate and the senior people, or just, I was fascinated by their skill and their background, their history. I didn't really know much, but they were people I looked up to. So I understand how most of you, not all, feel about me and my position. I just sort of don't treat it lightly. I appreciate it. I think the fact is that anything in life, we're influenced by people. I mean, it's a fact of life, and it's just natural that you are influenced by people and what they do, what they achieve, because you think, well, that could be me, or what if I can do that, or whatever it is. So it's just, it's just natural. I have a fascination with people that I, respect in all walks of life. I've spoken to Bertram, what was his first name, who won the America's Cup? Sean Burton, yeah, and other people, Dick Smith, who you've probably heard, the entrepreneur in Sydney. I've met him a few times and talked to him. Never met Richard Branson, but he's got an amazing guy, a Virgin guy, and read a lot about, it's interesting, business leaders like Bill Gates. Who's heard about Bill Gates? You think, wow, richest guy in the world. Well, the fact is, it's very interesting actually. What I admire about Bill Gates, just a little story, he always planned to give away a lot of his money when he was a lot older. And he was worth at the time about $50 billion. And a guy called Ted Turner, who founded CNN television, was worth a few billion, and he gave a billion or a couple of billion away to charity. And he challenged other billionaires in America to do the same thing. We got stacks of money. Let's be philanthropic, is it? Yeah. And Bill Gates got a bit of a, light bulb moment. Said, yeah, I can do that. So between Bill Gates and his wife Melinda, and Bill's father, who was a lawyer, retired lawyer, they created a foundation and gave away zillions of dollars, like billions and billions. And he said it was harder to give the money away than it was to earn it, because he figured that there was no point in just giving away to meaningless so-called charities, or it was going to be wasted, not used properly. So he wanted to do it where it did good. And I said a lot about him, but I have a lot of respect for him. And, I don't know, maybe he's done some shocking things. I wouldn't know. I won't assume that. But he's built an amazing business, Microsoft, And he's an incredible entrepreneur. And his wife, this guy's never met her, but seems to be the most down-to-earth person, So it sort of taught me to not prejudge, and judge sort of anybody, because it's interesting. They call it in Australia the tall poppy syndrome. Whether it's business success, sporting success, any success, people who don't have that success often want to pull down the person who's successful, which is just wrong. Jealousy, whatever you want to call it. But look, I just want to, tell you a little bit about, and some of you heard some of my stories, but the early days of GKR. Well, and I'm cutting a long story short, but as a kid, I got boarding at school. I joined the police cadets. Joined the police cadets in Sydney. I heard about karate, didn't even know I was fighting. It was just some fascinating, powerful type of thing to do. And so I went and watched the club, and it was different from what I thought, but I just was impressed by it. Started training, and it built up my confidence like mad. I quit the police force after 7 years and travelled. And was really immersed in karate. I just I did a few other things. I rode a surfboard, did other things that young people do, but karate was everything. And I didn't think it'd be all my life, but you know, I quit the police force. I lived in America, went to Japan for a while, got my second black belt, went to America for a while, came back, got married, and I did get sidetracked into other things. And I still had a love for karate, but karate took a second. I didn't run a club, and I just did home training, and it was real casual, wasn't quite the same, for a few years. And at age 36, thought, you know, I really, really love karate. And I was coming to a finalising of a business I had and decided that I'd like to start doing karate again for a living. I didn't know how well it would go. I was thinking I'd like to not do anything else. I'd try and get enough students to make a living, so I thought by committing myself to karate being a full-time job, I could therefore train more often during the day, have a greater commitment to my actual karate, therefore be more skilled and be able to offer more to my students. That made sense to me. But also too, I was an ambitious guy and still am. You know, 68, so when does ambition stop? I don't know. I don't think it does. I feel very excited, get up every day looking forward to, you know, the future. Even though I've had my stomach out with cancer and, you know, like you can die any time, you know, but you know, just live like there's no tomorrow. Just get out and make a great thing of your life. So I always feel like that. And so basically, I thought I want to try and make a good living for my wife and kids. And if I can make a decent living, that'd be great. But karate grew, and you know, my entrepreneurial juices flowed, and I figured ways to build the club a bit bigger. Then I figured we were doing things in karate in Adelaide that were a little bit different than other clubs. I figured I didn't really want to go down the normal way of doing things. I was happy to do things that were different. Even in our sort of way we run our instructor training program, to how we market the karate and, you know, join members, everything. And it worked so well. We expanded out of Adelaide, had a good prototype system, and then built around the place. But I've got so many stories that I could, you know, and I could try and think of random stories to tell, but there's so many funny stories that have happened in karate. You know, but suffice to say, you know, we grew out of Adelaide, we went to England. I will tell you an interesting story that happened in England. You know, like just, some of you heard it, maybe, some not. This is really, really crazy, but we were doing very well in England. We started there at about 95, I think, about a year after studying in New Zealand. And we had so much success that there's an organisation in England, I don't know if they're even around anymore, maybe they are, called the EKGB. Sounds very like, you know, Russian sort of James Bond stuff, but the English Karate Governing Body. Now, the English Karate Governing Body were the so-called self-appointed moral protectors of good quality karate for England. But they had government support, and so they thought they were pretty cool. We went over, you don't have to be a part of the EKGB to teach a karate club, but they were jealous of our success. We were making inroads with our club all around England. And one of our dojos, one day, one of the instructors had all of the cars, mums and dads, the parents of students' cars, had a leaflet under the windscreen saying, with a list of things where GKR was bad, like we hire pedophiles instructors, we don't pay our taxes, Robert Sullivan's a crook, he's really only a green belt, just endless stuff that was weird. And it was signed off by a guy who was what was his name? I can't remember. He's died in the meantime, but he was an official with the EKGB. So we checked this out, and it was, in the meantime, they sent these flyers to the local school, because things over there are very one school hears it, you're lost, you know. And the school board heard about us and thought, yeah, if the EKGB said this, they could, and closed us down. And we had endless problems with students who had paid membership, didn't know where to train, it was a real mess. But we quickly got in and we proved to the school boards that this is all fabrication, it's not true. They resurrected us, so we got back going again. We realised that these horrible people were going to bite at our heels for a long time because of their jealousy. So we got, and we had the money to do it, we were going to do it properly, we got lawyers. And I had administration for running that side of me, so I didn't get involved. But we ended up getting a company called Farah and Co., who were the Queen's personal lawyers, so pretty cool stuff, right? And said, I thought, this will beat them. So they sent letters out saying, don't do this, otherwise we're going to take you to court. They kept on doing it. But then it dragged on, and it cost us a lot of money. I don't know if anyone's been in a legal situation, it's back and forth with these letters and before it goes to court. And we were getting our, you know, I had to get, you know, what do you call it, references and people around Australia, people who could vouch for who I was able to present to court. And we were going to, and then what happened was, it got to the point where it was going to be a trial. And this will all be beyond me, but I thought, what do we do? I found out that we got this guy called George Carmen who defended Muhammad Al-Fayed, who owned Harrods like a week or two earlier. So we're paying like £10,000 a day, something, this guy, barrister. It lasted 2 or 3 days, and we realised we were going broke. So what we did was, this is going over here to the kids, but we settled out of court in our favour just because we just didn't want to take a risk. We could have borrowed money and batted on, but if we'd lost, it would have been sunk. But if we'd won, we'd have got it. But see, the EKGB weren't insured against litigation, and they had endless pockets, you know. We were having to pay our own money. But at the end, we had a bigger win than they did, so to speak. And then there was infighting with the EKGB because some of the EKGB members recognised the unethical things that had been done by their organisation, by others who were doing it. And there was a lot of infighting and they fought with each other. Their organisation was damaged. Then some other organisation was formed and we became the head of that, and it was sort of like Mandela getting out of jail and running the country. India again, you know, running what it was. So it was an amazing time. It cost us, I think, over £1 million of legal fees. It was just devastating. But you know what, if we didn't fight it, we may not be there anymore, because they looked to all purposes like they had legal sort of credibility, because they were backed up by the government, you know. So we've had a few situations like that, you know, in GKR. Probably the worst one, even worse, and I'll cut it very short, was a guy who was my right-hand man with karate, who recognises the name Adrian Sklanders. A few from the past, he was my Stacey. Now Stacey is the real McCoy, Stacey is real, but before him there's a guy called Adrian Sklanders and whilst GKR was growing in England, Australia, he tried to knife me in the back, metaphorically, and tried to steal the organisation from me. It's the equivalent to Stacey behind my back trying to get people on side saying Robert Sullivan's a crook and he's done this and he's done without me. And somehow people, because of Stacey being who he is, a great guy, people would believe him, and there'd be this groundswell behind my back I wouldn't even know about of I'm the bad guy. And there was he tried to steal the organisation. It did damage in England and one region in Australia, but it backfired and we resurrected, but it was a very heavy thing, a legal thing, and he was a horrible person, you know. I paid him extremely well, I trusted him, he was my Stacey back then. He still couldn't be with me, but you know, he ended up shooting himself in the foot, and his marriage went down the tubes and he's out there somewhere. Last we knew, he was selling coffee door to door in shops in Adelaide, and So, you know, it's been, you know, I've been through some interesting things, you know, and wow, it doesn't put hairs on your chest. But